Welcome to Magnificat.tv News, bringing you the news of the Church. Today is Wednesday, August 21st, 2019. The Pope has renewed the statutes of the Vatican Bank in order that there be more transparency, and he has established that there should be a controller external to the entity. The judgment from the appeal court trying Cardinal Pell will be disclosed this Wednesday. In the meantime, he has written a letter proclaiming his innocence. The Archbishop of Krakow has protested against the attacks from the LGBT community against the Church. He has received numerous critiques as well as endorsements. Following the shootings that have occurred in the United States, Monsignor Chaput, Archbishop of Philadelphia, has asked for more control over the sale of weapons, but he has also stated that this will not be enough. The protests continue against the professors' purge that have occurred at the John Paul II Institute for the Family. Bishops and teachers have joined the students. Pope Francis has renewed Ad Experimentum, and for 2 years, the statutes approved in 1990 by John Paul II for the Institute of Works for Religion.
The purpose of the institution remains the same, with the task of ensuring the custody and management of movable and immovable assets transferred or entrusted to the external auditor.
One of the main changes is the insertion of an external controller, which could be an individual person or a company, in order to audit the financial statements in accordance with internationally recognized standards.
The external controller is appointed by the Commission of Cardinals according to the proposal from the Superintendency Board, and will exercise his duties for a period of 3 consecutive fiscal years, renewable only once.
He is in charge of the legal audit of the accounts, states his opinion about the institution's financial statements in a special report, examines all the accounting books and documents, receives and may ask for any information from the Institute that may be useful for their audit activities.
Last June, the IWR released the balance for 2018, which recorded a 17.5 million euros profit, versus 31.9 million in 2017. Such amount was presented to the Pope.
The judgment of the appeal court that is revising the conviction of pederasty for Cardinal Pell will be disclosed this Wednesday. In the meantime, he has written a letter proclaiming his innocence.
Cardinal Pell has written a letter from prison to his close friends, affirming that he is disturbed due to the preparations for the upcoming synod about the Amazonia. He also claims that he is innocent and that he feels sustained by his faith.
In the letter dated on August 1st at the Melbourne prison, the Cardinal says that during his imprisonment, he has been sustained by his faith and by the prayers of the faithful, and that he is offering his suffering in prison for the good of the Church.
Pell writes in his letter, "Knowing that my little suffering can be used for good things, by uniting myself to Jesus' suffering, gave me a purpose and a direction. The challenges and problems in the life of the Church have to be faced with a similar spirit of faith."
Pell goes on saying that we have reason to be disturbed by the Instrumentum Laboris from the Amazonia Synod. He added, "This is not the first poor quality document that the Secretary for the Synod has produced."
Pell says, with or without the Amazon, anywhere in the world, the Church cannot allow that any misunderstanding, and much less any opposing teaching, may damage the apostolic tradition. The Cardinal emphasizes the unity in the essential teachings of Christ, and at the same time he asks for mercy in all things.
In the letter, the Australian Cardinal says that during his time in prison, he has received between 1,500 and 2,000 encouragement messages, and that he plans to respond to all. "It brings me great consolation in human and spiritual terms. My faith in the Lord, just as yours, is a source of strength."
The Archbishop of Krakow has dared to challenge the powerful LGBT movement in their attacks against the Church. Immediately, he was harshly attacked by them.
Monsignor Jędrzejewski, Archbishop of Krakow, denounced the anti-religious violence in Warsaw during the Gay Pride Parade on June 8th as an attack to true freedom, especially to religious freedom of most Poles. And he warned that such kind of rallies have turned into an opportunity to mock the Eucharist and into sessions for contempt and hatred.
The same archbishop later remarked that the Polish homeland is not subject anymore of the Red Plague, which does not mean that there isn't another one wishing to control our souls, hearts, and minds. It is not a Marxist plague, but emerges from the same neo-Marxist spirit. It is not red, it is a rainbow.
His words were the subject of a campaign against him from all the gay lobby media inside as well as outside Poland. In view of that, the president of the Episcopal Conference and Archbishop of Poznan, Monsignor Gadecki, endorsed the criticized bishop.
For Gadecki, the tide of criticism against the Metropolitan of Krakow give witness about the ideological totalitarianism entrenched within certain media, which consists in removing those who think differently out of the arena of freedom.
The Polish bishops are not alone. Duka, Cardinal Primate of Czech and Archbishop of Prague, has manifested his agreement with the statement about homosexuality from the Polish Episcopal Conference and has asked the Slovak and Hungarian bishops to endorse such statement.
On the other hand, Cardinal Zenon Groszelewski, prefect of the Congregation for Catholic Education, condemned the unfounded attacks against the Archbishop of Krakow and thanked him for his work as head of the archdiocese.
Following the many shooting incidences that have occurred in the United States, Archbishop Chaput has asked for greater control in the sales of weapons. But he has also affirmed that this will not be enough to prevent the incidents.
In an article written in response to the recent shootings in Gilroy, California, El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio, Monsignor Chaput affirms that a law for weapon control will not stop massive shootings on its own.
Archbishop Chaput believes that there should be a social change to transform the current culture of violence. The prelate said that while he supports the use of background checks and the restrictions about who may buy weapons, only a fool can believe that the control will resolve the massive violence problem.
People who use weapons in these repulsive incidents are moral beings with twisted hearts, and the culture of sexual anarchy, individual excess, political hatred, intellectual dishonesty, and perverted freedoms, which we have systematically created for the past half-century, make everything distorted.
When we build our advertising campaigns upon the consumer selfishness and greed, when money becomes the universal measure of worth, when we praise and proliferate weapons, why are we surprised when kids use them?
Chaput also addressed the issue of death penalty and the legality of abortion of some kinds of murders that we consecrate as rights and we protect by law, which creates a social discrepancy. This discrepancy has impaired the approach to human life.
If the students were the first to protest against the professor's purge at the John Paul II Institute for the Family, now bishops and professors have joined them.
49 professors from the best universities in the world, experts in marriage and family subjects, have signed a letter in protest for the purge carried out by Monsignor Paglia at the John Paul II Institute for the Family against teachers aligned with the Polish Pope.
But it is not only they who have protested. First it was the students from the Institute, and then personal statements were issued by prestigious experts like the theologian Nicola Bucks, former advisor of the doctrine of the faith.
Monsignor Bucks claimed, "We have gotten to the point of using Stalinist methods with velvet gloves. and he suggested that maybe it is time to stand up and turn to St. Peter.
According to Bucks, if you don't think as the leader, you are wrong, labeled and barred. This is the damaging effect of the dialogue ideology, which is fine as long as you follow the same trend of the preacher.
The Italian theologian said that the paradox is that the ecumenical and interreligious dialogue spreads to the outside, while inside of the church what stands is the dictatorship of a unique thinking.
Monsignor Massimo Camisasca, Bishop of Reggio Emilia, is another one who has manifested his support to the removed professors. He has written a letter to the Avenir newspaper in which he asks himself, why do they want to perform a deep and traumatic interruption of the work made by the Pontifical John Paul II Institute?
The continuance in the teaching is the essential hermeneutical key of the life of the Church, says the Italian bishop. Why giving the students the impression of a radical innovation that worries and misleads, as some of them have expressed?
Our editorial this week is dedicated to commenting on the appeal trial lodged by Cardinal Pell against his conviction.
Se acaba de conocer que el próximo miércoles, si Dios quiere, se sabrá cuál es el resultado del juicio de apelación interpuesto por el cardenal Pell contra la condena en el primer juicio que se llevó a cabo en Australia. El cardenal Pell ha sido condenado por abusos a menores, a un menor, supuestamente llevado a cabo ese abuso cuando estaba en la sacristía de la catedral. Por supuesto, hay una condena firme y ahora viene el juicio de apelación, así que no podemos decir que el cardenal sea inocente cuando hay una condena contra él. No hay que olvidar que ya se presentó un caso parecido. Un arzobispo australiano, el de Adelaida, fue también condenado a 1 año de cárcel por supuestamente haber colaborado con un sacerdote que cometía el delito de pederastia y no haberle denunciado. En el juicio de apelación, ese arzobispo, Monseñor Wilson, fue declarado inocente y fue puesto en libertad. Lo mismo podría suceder en el caso del cardenal Pell. Personalmente considero que el juicio tiene tantas lagunas que me parece, tanto por la honorabilidad del cardenal en el cual confío, como por el propio desarrollo del juicio, me parece que no se sostiene y confío en que también el cardenal Pell sea declarado inocente en este juicio de apelación. Por ejemplo, no se le permitió al cardenal, lo cual va en contra de todo derecho, hablar defendiéndose a sí mismo, dirigirse al jurado. Había un vídeo que presentaba la defensa y que explicaba que era imposible que el cardenal hubiera estado en ese sitio en ese momento y que tampoco fue permitido que lo pudiera ver el jurado. E incluso el denunciante, que se contradijo en varias ocasiones, afirmó que el abuso se produjo sobre él y sobre otro monaguillo, mientras que el otro monaguillo dijo que aquello era mentira. Es decir, de las dos supuestas víctimas, uno dijo que era todo mentira. Y a pesar de eso, el cardenal Pell fue juzgado y fue condenado. Bueno, ¿qué es lo que hay detrás de esta condena y detrás de este juicio? Creo que eso es importante analizarlo en este momento en que aún no se conoce cuál es el resultado del juicio de apelación. Un amigo mío que tiene que escribir con seudónimo, porque a ese punto hemos llegado de que si escribes diciendo tu nombre te pueden caer encima enormes represalias, afirma que lo que hay detrás de la condena, del juicio y condena del cardenal Pell, no son abusos ni casos australianos, sino que lo que hay detrás es dinero y dinero del Vaticano. Es decir, el cardenal Pell fue nombrado por el Papa Francisco su ministro de Economía y se puso en serio a intentar limpiar las finanzas del Banco Vaticano. Tan en serio se puso que pisó demasiados pies e hizo daño a demasiados intereses y que, según este amigo mío, eso ha sido lo que ha provocado esta acusación que, según él, repito, es completamente falsa, no se sostiene. Dice este amigo mío, lo escribe en un artículo, que la honorabilidad de un sacerdote es peor que la muerte y que eso lo saben muy bien y lo practican, dice él, los del mandil. Bueno, yo creo que eso no es más que lo que hacían Hitler y Stalin, que tenían como norma, en primer lugar, intentar comprar a los que les podía suponer algún tipo de peligro, con cargos, con dinero, y si no se vendía, entonces le desprestigiaban, le daban la vuelta a su vida, buscando hasta las cosas más mínimas para destruir su honor, y si no las encontraban, las inventaban. Solo si esto fallaba, en ese caso sí, recurrían a la muerte porque la sangre mancha mucho. Es decir, estamos en una situación en la cual se busca crear zombies, muertos vivientes, personas que están desprestigiadas y que por eso sus opiniones ya no son escuchadas. Si el cardenal Pell resultara definitivamente culpable, ¿quién iba a hacerle caso cuando él denuncia, como ha hecho ahora recientemente con una carta que ha publicado desde la cárcel, denuncia la confusión que hay en la Iglesia? Es un pederasta y por lo tanto sus opiniones no tienen ningún valor. Ciertamente que si el cardenal Pell es definitivamente absuelto, la situación es todo lo contrario. Estaríamos ante un nuevo San Atanasio. San Atanasio sufrió 5 destierros mientras era arzobispo de Alejandría, 5 destierros con 4 emperadores romanos distintos, y lo sufrió porque defendió contra viento y marea la divinidad de Jesucristo contra los arrianos, que entonces tenían prácticamente todo el poder y también incluso una gran influencia delante del Papa de Roma. San Atanasio fue el gran campeón de la divinidad de Jesucristo, el gran defensor de la divinidad de Jesucristo, y le costó, repito, 5 destierros, pero hoy San Atanasio es santo. Si el cardenal Pell el miércoles es absuelto, va a tener tal prestigio delante de la Iglesia que será, repito, un nuevo San Atanasio. Y esto es lo que seguramente muchos están temiendo. Creo que tenemos que rezar por el cardenal Pell, esto es lo primero, rezar por él. Es una persona, pienso, es mi opinión, que es inocente, veremos lo que dicen los tribunales. Por supuesto, un tribunal es un tribunal, pero también es verdad que hay ocasiones en que los tribunales se han equivocado y que han condenado a muerte, por ejemplo, a personas que eran inocentes. O sea que tampoco es que la sentencia de un tribunal sea tan decisiva que la persona que reclama su inocencia, como está haciendo el cardenal Pell desde la cárcel, ya no pueda ser respetada ni creída. Hay que rezar por el cardenal Pell, hay que rezar por la Iglesia. Hay que rezar por la Iglesia en este momento de confusión, pedir al Señor que nos ayude y que en medio de estas vicisitudes que zarandean ciertamente nuestra fe y que a algunos les pueden llevar a dudar de esa fe, se fortalezca confiando en el Espíritu Santo, confiando en que el Espíritu Santo nunca va a abandonar a la Iglesia y que la barca de Pedro, a pesar de estar a veces tan zarandeada y que parece que se va a hundir, va a salir adelante. Recemos por el cardenal Pell, recemos por la Iglesia, pidamos al Señor que se haga justicia sobre este hombre y que quede a la luz no solo su inocencia, sino que las causas que le han llevado a este martirio, a esta persecución, han sido precisamente la causa de ser fiel a Jesucristo y de defender las enseñanzas del Señor en la Iglesia. Hasta la semana que viene, si Dios quiere.
If you wish to follow us online about the news happening in the church, follow us on www.catholicosonline.org. We'll see you in 2 weeks, God willing.